Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
Tony?
Hey, Lionel, how are you?
Fine. Man, everybody, usually sometimes I say Tony and people go Lionel, and then Tony, and then, but you just jump right in there.
Because I think a lot of them just like to pull your chain or rattle your cage or, any one of those other sayings. And I don't. You ask, and I'm right there.
That's
Johnny on the spot.
Well, and you're an editor of a magazine.
So I'm used to dealing with deadlines and requests, and this needs to be here at a certain time. So no, I'm not going to say Lionel, like,
Right.
I'm asleep somewhere and have been woken up, that I drifted off watching a Green Acres marathon or something.
Hey, I still can't. I know it's months later, but I'm still stuck on the ending for Airport 75.
Have you looked up Skyjacked yet?
I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, it's also got Charlton Heston as the pilot. It's got a lot. I don't know. I haven't seen it in years. But since you were unsatisfied with that ending, of course you didn't. Did you suffer through all Airport 77? And have you done 79?
I have not done 79. I've done 70, the original one, 75, and 77.
Okay, well, if you're not happy with 75, wait till you get to the end of 79.
Well, I thought 77 was pretty weak.
Mm.
I mean, really? A plane sinking into,
But not just sinking, it went into the Bermuda Triangle, which in the 1970s, I mean, you want to talk conspiracy theories, man, that poor Bermuda Triangle. That's where everything went there,
Well, you know what? I've often thought, see if this theory is way off the mark or not. Some of these manufacturers, not so much with the big manufacturers, but some of the littler manufacturers will announce some sort of locomotive that everybody gets all excited about. And they keep telling you about it, and they keep telling you about it, and they keep telling you about it, and then it just kind of disappears. And I'm wondering if, there's kind of a Bermuda Triangle of model railroading.
I think that yes, yeah. I believe there is. There's a lot of things lost out there in the Bermuda Triangle of model railroading.
Yes, I think I have nothing to back this up with, but I've been told that the Bermuda Triangle of model railroading is about 30 miles southwest of Muncie, Indiana. That's what I've been told.
I don't know. Speaking of these small companies, did you happen to walk by the green room as you were coming into the studio?
I saw this young guy in there. What's the deal?
Well, this kid, I found this guy on Facebook, and he was and now I say kid because I didn't know at the time. I'm on Facebook. I see these neat little 3D printed shells for like the fireless steam engines that work like at industrial sites where they would just have something somewhere they could pump up the boiler with steam. So it's got no tender. It doesn't really, and it would run till it was out of steam. And they were like little 040s or 060s. And then some of the industrial critters. I see these neat little models this Apogee company is doing. And I think, wow, this is awesome. And so I put together a news announcement for Model Railroad News, and I put a web page up on our website, modelrailroadnews.com. And then the person behind the company contacts me. And lo and behold, would you not think someone that would be into these, critters that were popular in the early part of the 20th century, almost 100 years ago, when these early diesels first started crawling around steam yards? I'm thinking in fact, my first thought was, this is amazing. It's got to be somebody like, my age or older that has figured out 3D printing. And I'm so jealous that he's got this company going.
You're right.
I hate to tell you this, but this kid's in college.
Get out. Is that the kid I saw in the green room?
That's the kid. That is not the guy that's supposed to be that couch in the green room.
Yeah.
That part of the stimulus money we got from the federal government. We were going to redo that couch and try to get that shrimp smell out of the green room as part of our,
right.
That's not the person. This is the guy that has this Apogee company making HO shells. I'll go get him if you'd like to talk to him.
Yeah, I would, but before we get on to that, I don't know how you got a hold of that distress money that the government was sent out, but I know that's what you spent that on the shag carpet on the walls of your office.
Don't you like that though? I mean, yeah, I'm trying to make my office look like a late 70s van. In fact, I'm going to have all the windows taken out and have those little bubble windows even, put in the sides. Yeah.
All right, go. What's this fine gentleman's name?
Well, now, because this Model Railroad News being basically a print medium, I have typed his name. I've seen his name. I can say his first name. And I know this is a running gag we have where you'll say something like, the name is Lionel Strang, right? It is Lionel. I'm pronouncing that correctly. Well, in this case, I think we're really going to have to go through a little, am I pronouncing that correctly? I'll call him and see if I'll just call him by his first name. He's going to have to tell us his last name. Hey, Aaron, come on in here.
Hello.
Hey.
Well, there he is. Look at that. It's that kid from the green room.
Aaron, please introduce yourself and pronounce this last name for us all. We're waiting with anticipation.
Yes. Hello. My name is Aaron Piotrowski. It's half Polish, half German.
Wow.
Piotrowski.
Is that, I think, in the annals of AML, is that one of the more interesting last names we've ever had for a guest?
Yeah, I don't think we've had too many Piotrowskis on the show.
I mean, they're not a dime a dozen.
No.
So anyway, I will shut up here, and Aaron, I feel like I've just monopolized this show here.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I'm Logie on. I went out and got some Easter chocolate before it was Easter, so I'm kind of Logie on Easter chocolate.
I've been doing Reese's peanut butter cups, and do you know they make, I would call them the industrial strength one or family size one. They're about twice the thickness. And the lady that lives next door to me works at the grocery store here in town and actually brought some over to me recently and said, have you had these? So whenever I'm in the store now buying them, I said, well, you're the pusher that got me started and hooked on these poor things. Now when you're out, I'm upset. And they were out the other day and I had to buy regular Reese's peanut butter cups. Then I got to stack them together to eat them.
Yeah, they're pretty low. I understand they're fairly low in calories too.
Oh, I think that. How could they so little? How could they be?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron. So where do you live?
Well, I live in Johnston, Iowa.
Johnston.
Which is
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's one of the least train locations you could possibly have. We used to have several interurbans go around here, and they always talk about, oh yeah, Johnston Station, all that history, but there's literally nothing left of it, which is sad.
Did you say Johnson or Johnston?
Johnston.
Okay, like Johnston. Johnston,
yeah.
Okay. And where is that? Is that near anywhere?
It's kind of near Grimes and Des Moines.
Okay. Have you ever been to Ames, Iowa?
Yep.
Have you ever seen a guy kind of wandering around the streets? His name's Scott Thornton. He's one of the guys that's involved with the Proto Throttle. You know what the Proto Throttle is?
Oh, yes, I have heard of that.
Yeah, well, he's involved with that. Anyways, if you see him on the streets, probably best not to approach him or approach him with caution. Okay, so you're just outside of Des Moines.
Yeah.
Okay, so and how big is Des Moines?
It's not that big actually. It's mainly just it's an average city, capital city, I guess.
Okay.
There's a capital, a few skyscrapers, and then downtown, which is just an assortment of old industrial buildings.
Okay. So
that's where they sell all the corn.
Corn? You sell corn?
Well, most of Iowa's products is. It's either corn or biofuel from corn.
Okay. Do you live on a farm or something?
We don't.
Oh.
But we have Pioneer, and they make a bunch of GMO stuff and whatnot.
Okay. So, all right. So, what was it like when you saw your product in the magazine?
Well, I'll be honest, I was floored because I was just looking through for prototype information because I was making more products, and I scroll through and I was like, wait a minute, what's that? Why is that? Hang on. Oh my God, it's an entire article about me. And I was like, I was completely floored when I saw that because I didn't think I was getting this much attention.
So what
I
is
didn't
it?
think it was going that well.
What exactly is it you're making?
Well, I started out, what I'm doing is I'm making little 3D printed shells of various locomotives, very niche locomotives, and
Right.
they're all average detailed, and they just snap onto pre-manufactured chassis.
And what kind of chassis do they snap onto?
Well, the fireless locomotives, all of them snap onto Bachmann Porter 060s, and then the Whitcomb the Whitcomb shells I've made screw onto Northwest Shortline Stanton drives, and then the box cabs. One of them fits on the Bachmann GE 70 tonner, and another one fits on the Bachmann 44 tonner.
Really? And how long have you been working on this?
Well, the fireless I started to develop the fireless around July, and the box cab was started maybe a few months after that one was perfected.
And why did you start doing it? Like, what was the impetus to get you all of a sudden to start doing this? Like, I mean, 3D printing is changing the hobby for sure. And what was the impetus of developing these particular locomotives?
Well, at first, I was just doing it because I thought the idea of a fireless locomotive was really cool. I mean, it's a little, steam locomotive that just charges up and basically goes into dangerous areas where, like, for example, a nitroglycerin plant. If a steam locomotive went into a nitroglycerin plant, the factory and about, 4 blocks across in a radius would be leveled. So
Because of
it's basically a hazmat train, and that's pretty cool.
because of the fire in the firebox, I mean,
Yeah, and
right?
just sparks and everything.
Sparks and all that stuff. Okay, all right, sparks coming out of the exhaust stack and all that. So, how long have you been a model railroader all your life?
Well, it started out when my great grandfather gave me a Tyco set when I was like, maybe 8 years old,
Okay,
and I've been hooked on that until the thing kind of went snap, crackle, and pop,
right.
and then I got some better equipment,
No,
and I just kind of stuck with it until I got to DCC, and then I got into kit bashing, and I really liked kit bashing and just kind of modifying stuff. Oddly enough, even though I live in Iowa, I was quite interested in logging railroads. So I had little Mantua 2662s and Shays, stuff like that. That was fun.
who were the Shays manufactured by?
I had a Bachmann Shay,
Right.
and I had a Reverossi Heisler I got for Christmas, but I had to sell all my Legos to do that.
Remember those Bachmann Shays, Tony? They were quite the unit there for a while.
I mean, that's such an interesting prototype that, yeah, it's one of those that, whether it was that Riverossi Heisler he talked about that they did a couple different versions over the Bachmann, that is such a neat. I don't know that I have one. Now that you say that,
I know,
yeah,
that would be right up your alley.
I would think I would, and yeah, that whole it is interesting. He mentions logging railroads that narrow gauge is always popular, and a lot of times that means narrow gauge for some of those. But yeah, that Pacific Northwest, idea of out working in the tall timbers somewhere in like Oregon or Washington State, that's a lure for a lot of guys to get into. There was Timber Times magazine, White River. We just did a book that came out recently, a hardcover book on timber railroading. So it's got a real following. But now you haven't figured this one part out yet. He mentioned that he had a Tyco set, which that really does something for me. So he had a Tyco set first. Now, being the Tyco guy, they left model trains, electric trains, in 1993. And he said he got this Tyco set when he was 8. So when were you 8, Aaron?
It was a handy down.
Right.
It belonged to my great grandfather. And I guess from what I know is that he was going to give it to me a lot earlier, but I was just too young. So they waited.
I know a guy in Plattsburgh, Missouri, that would pay you a handsome sum for that Tyco train set. Wait a minute, Tony. Before we go on here, he's already opened an interesting can of worms that I want to talk to you about, because I remember I've gone to the Bachmann, I've typed in Bachmann Shay, and they made this 38-ton 2-truck Shay. And I remember thinking at the time, man, that would be really cool. But I was never convinced it would run very well. What do you know of this? Because it kind of came and went in a flurry, and there would have been a lot to making this model and producing it in mass.
Like I say, I don't think I think that came out before I was with Model Railroad News.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever got one. I never picked one up somehow.
Well,
so I don't even think I have a sample of the AHM Riverossi Heislers shays, or, the side, whatever they are.
Well, if you go to Bachman and they say it's discontinued, but you can click for a parts diagram, and they have this fantastic parts diagram of the thing. You just had 1,000 parts on it. That's an assignment for you, because that would be great to talk about, because it was a Bachman was a plastic 2-truck shay that was mass produced it was like kind of their. And I mean, this was really fascinating at the time that they would try to make. Can you imagine somebody, one of the front-running locomotive manufacturers trying to do this now?
Steam is so popular. I'm surprised there aren't more, really.
Yeah, but man, there's like a bazillion parts on this thing. All right, Aaron, what do you know about this 2-truck shay?
Well, I know Bachman made the shays, and they also made Climax models. And I had a Climax. I had a 2-truck Climax, and that thing was actually a really great model. Supposedly what happened is the first runs of them had plastic gears,
right,
and those would crack, so they eventually replaced them with metal gears. And since then, those things have been great runners, and they're fully die-cast models. They run great. They're just great models, honestly, and I kind of wish I had more.
So you still have them? And
yeah, I have. Yeah.
And they're so you must be kind of a tinkering kind of guy, are you?
Oh yeah, I had to, because I bought a Mantua 2662, the newest ones, the reproduction ones.
Right.
They had the original Mantua 2662s had a little tube drive for the universal.
Yeah.
And then the new ones had these U-joints that were just so too small. And every time that derailed, that would fall out, and then you'd have to tear the whole thing open and put that back in.
Wow. See, that's why I don't take my trains out of the box, Lionel.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's something rattling around in the box, I figure, well, it came that way from the factory. But if I take it out of the box and do it, then I've broken it or something. So yeah, just leave it in the box.
Just leave it in the box.
And leave it in the box and admire it. Appreciate what you can take it out, maybe look at it, but gently put it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, this guy's into steam.
Yeah.
He's 3D printing all these shells. So you got to figure that, and everybody in the hobby is old guys, right? So we're guessing Aaron's about 70 years old?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How old are you, Aaron?
I'm 18.
You are not. Come on.
I am.
You're pulling our leg.
Nope.
How can an 18-year-old guy know anything about steam locomotives?
Well, you see, trains are cool.
there you go.
What else do we need to know? Trains are cool.
Yeah.
So do you have some sort of a layout there?
Well, I do, but it's mainly just a test track going around my desk. I've been wanting to make a modular layout. I'm going to do a Fremo, even though I don't have a Fremo club that I belong to.
Right.
Just figured it'd be nice to have as a standard. And I was going to use it for just kind of something for my fireless locomotives and switchers to run around on. It's great to have a little modular layout that actually looks nice. So I'm looking forward to putting that together.
So how did you get into this? So obviously 3D printing probably attracted you somehow.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you started printing these locomotive shells.
Mm-hmm.
And you made them precise enough that they, like you say, there's some of the box cabs snap onto the Bachman 44-tonner and 70-tonner. That seems like a lot of work to me.
Yeah, well, I don't know why, but I've been pretty good at CAD for a while. I remember when I was in, I think it was 8th or 9th grade. I was in a graphic communications class, and I was actually sick the day that we were learning about how to use CAD. Okay. And so the next day I go in there and I click buttons and it's like, oh, wow, this is cool. So if I do this, then that happens. And if I do that, then that happens. and I just kind of gotten good at CAD.
Really?
And since then, I've been doing CAD in other classes. I've been doing Autodesk, and now I do SolidWorks, which is what I use for Apogee Locomotive Works. And it's been kind of learn as you go, but learning quickly.
SolidWorks
So,
is a fairly expensive program, isn't it?
yeah, I got it from an entrepreneurship license for one of my business classes when I was really confident that I was going to win, because we were doing these competitions where if you were voted by the Iowa State University's business program as a good like a good business idea, and you had a good business plan, you wrote all this paper and had evidence for like why this would work, then you would get some seed capital and you could do this. But I lost.
Oh.
So, but I still had my entrepreneurship license, so I used that for a while. And
What's an
as Apogee Locomotive,
what's
yeah.
What's an entrepreneurship license?
Well, it's a license. It was a license that I was able to get directly from SolidWorks by telling them about my business, and like you would write a paragraph or so about your business plan,
Right.
and if they liked it, they'd grant you a 1-year license.
Ah, okay.
And so I was running off that for a while until the year ended, but Apogee Locomotive Works has been so successful, I was able to restart it so I can continue expanding it and make more models.
So successful. So what's your business called?
Apogee Locomotive Works.
So do you have a website?
Yeah, it's apogeelocoworks.com.
So how do you spell apogee?
APOGEE,
Yeah.
and then it's just Loco Works.
Loco? Just Loco?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is, Apogee. Look at that. All I had to put in was Apogee Loco, and it comes up, and boom, there it is. There it is on Facebook. There it is, Apogee Loco Works. Look at that. Look at you go.
And look at that whole line of those shells, and look at the price on them, Lionel. When I first saw this, I'm like, oh, it's neat, but these things always kill me, where $150 for a shell. It's like, yikes. But then look at these, like $45. I think, I would be willing to do that and then get that Bachmann drive to put it on. That'd be a fun project to do.
Yeah.
And they look great. I mean, look at some of the pictures.
So our business is going pretty good, is it?
Yeah. I have been. One of my biggest struggles, though, was with my printers, because I only have so many printers, and I've been reinvesting into the company. So I finally got more boxes. I had a box delay, but now I have enough boxes, and I'm looking for getting more printers.
How many printers do you have?
Right now, I have 3, but one of them is currently out because the screen went pop.
And how much? And so, how long does it take to print this box cab?
The box cabs on most of my printers, they'll take about 15 hours to print each one.
Okay.
And then on the Mono X, which is the printer that's out, of course, can do 4 of them in 7 hours.
4 of them in 7 hours. Wow.
Huh.
So that's a pretty robust printer, except it's not working.
Yeah.
How much does a printer like that cost? One of that quality?
Well, that one was around $600.
Okay.
But the biggest issue is the supplies and everything, and getting it running. Because the thing is that the reason why that one can print 4 at a time is because it has a massive build plate. Okay. And the biggest weaknesses with those printers is there's a suction between the build plate and the print and this thin film that protects the screen from having resin poured over it and ruining it.
Okay.
And the bigger that bed is, the more strain there is on that FEP film. So then balance and all that.
Were you going to say something, Tony?
No.
Okay. How many of these how many roughly? So when did you start this company?
Well, I started officially around, it was perpetual kind of, but I'd say I have really started rolling in around maybe September 2020.
Okay, so not that long ago.
Yeah.
And yet you feel like it's been pretty successful.
I'd say so, but I really hope to be able to print more stuff in the near future.
Yeah. How many like shells have you sold?
Oh, so far, maybe 70.
70.
Mhm.
Holy mackerel! And how do you think people are finding you? Like, how are they finding out about you?
Well, I've mostly been advertising on Facebook. Of course, not necessarily advertising, but like sharing the models I've been working on and selling. So I'd post them on my Facebook page, and then I would share them to various groups on Facebook, and and then people would find me. And I think one of the best sales I had was this one guy who said that he was looking for a model like this for 20 years. It
Wow.
was a C&O fireless shell that I was working on. And he was just like, you know what, thank you so much, because I've been looking for one of these Chesapeake and Ohio fireless locomotives for 20 years, and there has never been a model of it made. So
I'm
it's
telling you,
always nice to.
Tony, this hobby's going to explode, and we're all going to be covered in model railroad goo.
I know. And I mean, again, the stuff he's doing, these box cabs in the early 70s, I'm sure you remember Roundhouse
Yes.
did that. Alco, Ingersoll Rand, General Electric box cab. And man, those go for obnoxious money on eBay because they haven't run them either. And Athearn would own that tooling now through Horizon, but I don't think anything's happening with it. That's the only time that's been done. And it's such a landmark because it's considered like the first diesel. So it's so cool. And he has two of those. He did one to fit two different drives. So he stretched one a little. And then he's got the fireless steam locomotives that I don't know that I've ever seen those before.
Wow.
I don't know that anybody's done them. And yet again, if you have like a big industrial site, I can remember one as a kid, and this would have been in the early 70s, worked near the Gulf Mobile and Ohio yard at a big power plant by the Mississippi River near St. Louis. And of course, steam was long gone by the time I was a kid, but here was this little steam locomotive over there working at that power plant. And it always fascinated me, like, wow, how is that? It's like, hey, there's still a dinosaur running around over there. And Dad explained the whole thing that, well, yeah, it is a steam locomotive, but not kind of a real one that, as Aaron said, they're kind of recharged, from a boiler in the factory or in the plant or wherever. But yeah, that's a fascinating thing to add to an industrial spur in a model railroad scene. So you talk about something like, why has nobody done this before? And then the brilliance of making these so they drop on an easy to find, smooth running little Bachmann 060 mechanism. Genius.
Yeah, it is genius. Aaron, it's genius. Have you been, is it hard to keep up with the demand?
Sometimes. There's a lot of times where one of my printers will just be like, you know what, I'm broken today. It's like, oh, all right. Well, that's good. I had a few times where the screen will burn out on the older printers I have. I have two Photon S's, and those still use the LCD screens. And those aren't supposed to be subjected to UV light for 15 hours. And so some days they'll just decide to go pop, and you have to go buy a new one and then install it, and it's quite a mess. But worst case scenario is that I'm out of stock for a certain locomotive, and I get an order for one. It's like, okay, I'll print one of those, and that'll keep that done. And hopefully that gets done. But then might be a time where that printer decides that that's the perfect time to stop working. So then I have to go to the other printer and retry it the next day. But usually haven't.
And this has all been going on since September. Man, oh man.
Yeah.
And what was it? What gave you the idea, like, to start 3D printing this stuff? Just because you wanted one?
Yeah, I wanted one, and I got a lot of positive comments about it. It's like, wow, that's really cool. A fireless locomotive and HO skills. Like, you know what? There's demand for this, and of course, my goal is to, give model railroading a bit more creativity because, well, I'll be honest, I haven't seen much more than GEVOs come out recently, so I think we need to.
Well, Aaron, it used to be F units. All we got was F units. So, yeah. And now it's all GEVOs, but there you go. Yep.
Yeah, now it's all GEVOs. Exactly. I don't know, Tony. This is
it's incredible,
It is. Yeah. It's exactly what we talk about constantly. Here's a young guy, and because he has the resources available to him, he can buy the printers, and he can post it. He can advertise for free on Facebook, which is huge. He doesn't have to lay out tons of money to get his stuff out there. And I mean, Have you sold to people just mostly in the United States, or has there been people around the world that you've sold to? Or
Well, most of my sales have been to through United States. One thing I find interesting is that the Pennsylvania prototypes often get sold to people in Pennsylvania and then vice versa. But I have been getting some requests for other locomotives, and I'm always open to requests. I had a request recently for a 25 tonner, and I'm thinking I might make that for another Stanton drive.
really?
Mm-hmm.
And he's making. I don't know if he's got a picture of it on his site. The one I'm really excited about is that atomic powered locomotive, and I know that he's still developing it. If you scroll down on the main page, Lionel, see the models from the works
Yeah.
thing where you can click on that series of slides.
Okay. And
then
I see a caboose. Yeah.
click through to the slide where there's a Great Northern F unit sitting next to something that looks like it crashed at Roswell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's that. And Aaron, I think I can't remember. I've seen pictures. It was like a ad or maybe a popular science article, and it was supposed to be like the atomic powered locomotive. And when I
Yep.
saw you working on that, it's like, oh, I got to have one of those.
Yeah, I've been working on it for a while now. According to the poster, or at least what you can see of it, it was just powered trucks all the way down the length of it. So I was like, okay, I need a chassis that can do 3 trucks. And how am I going to make this articulate and everything? I got it, but it's a bit noisy. So I'm trying to kind of it's on its MK3 chassis right now, but I'm hoping I can get it running smooth as silk. And it's able to take curves because the way it articulates.
Mm-hmm.
The middle truck is not fixed. It's on like a slot, so it can move side to side. So there's no overhang, but it still gets over curves.
Wow.
And did you build the trucks then, basically? You must have, the chassis.
Well, the trucks were sourced. They are like duplicate Athearn trucks,
Okay.
but the chassis was designed by me, and I made these little forks that kind of duplicate the way Athearn mounts their trucks, and they click into the chassis.
So they're sourced. The trucks are Athearn duplicate trucks. Where does one buy Athearn duplicate trucks?
AliExpress.
AliExpress?
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like a sourcing
right.
Website for companies and stuff. And occasionally you find small stuff like pantographs and stuff like that. But it's a lifesaver when you're 18 years old and in a basement and you want to make trains. Someday we might have some nice stuff, but until then.
Well, yeah, sure. But you got to be pretty happy with the fact that you've sold 70 shells already.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when I finally get some more printers and I can open my branches a bit more, make some more stuff. I'm looking forward to that.
How hard is because the CAD stuff I think is so neat, but I know I'd never be able to figure it out. But I assume you look at drawings or pictures of the prototypes and then go from there. Like from when you see something in a book or a magazine and go, that's cool. I like the atomic locomotive. Like how long and how many hours at the computer do you think it is before you're printing like your first test shell of it?
Oh, well, the CAD is definitely the hardest part. I'll look at a picture of it. I'll get a few other pictures and try to get everything proportioned correctly. So like, okay, I know how big a window is. So this is about that big compared to the window and all that. And I make sure all the rivets and everything look right. It takes a while. And then you got to figure out, okay, how do I make this go onto this chassis or whatever? And that was the biggest issue with the CNO one and the early HK Porter one, because I was trying to fit something with thin running boards on a rectangular tank engine chassis.
Lionel, I suddenly feel like making buttered toast is probably something that's about the limit of my ability.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wild. Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
It is. Like it's and what we're looking at too is a young guy just starting a business. Like I'm scrolling through his Facebook page and I see the post where he says the last new box has arrived, and he's got, like properly printed boxes to send out his stuff. And, it's like this is a young guy that's just starting a business using all the tools that are available in today's world.
It's amazing. Yeah, I saw the picture too on Facebook. Yeah, he's got these professional printed boxes. His website looks great. He's got a logo, with his Apogee logo works, the ALW. I mean, again, it's like, wow. I mean, if
Yeah.
only Irv Atherin and Gordon Varney would have had all this available to them.
What are you taking in school?
Right now I'm taking some business courses and then just some of the core classes like the maths and the
Sure.
foreign relations and all that. But most of my stuff is business. I've always had an interest in business since high school when I first took a financial literacy class, which is a required class on how to manage money. But I was the only one there who found it fun.
Wow, there's a cool picture. There's a cool picture here. We are stocking from November 12th. We are building stock of our newest shells. Expect some HK Porter fireless shells to be available soon. In the meantime, we have listed our interurban trolley pole mounts on our eBay store. So there's like these little trolley pole mounts, and he's got them mounted on top of one of the box cabs. Wow, you're just going nuts here, buddy.
Yeah, free time is all going to Apogee Locomotive Works. It's something I really enjoy to do. So I've been working on a lot of freelancing and like detail parts.
Okay.
And those, so I have those interurban trolley pole mounts, and I've been using them for, well, of course, mounting trolley poles. They're really, they're on my Fort Dodge, Des Moines, and Southern box cab, and I've been thinking about making a electric version of my Stanton dry switcher. Figured that would be fun. I also have a pantograph mount I'm working on, but of course I need to source more pantographs. The original trolley pole mounts I had the hole bigger, but on the ones I sell, the holes are just little nubs that you drill out because there's so many different trolley poles out there. Like there's some that are just like needles that you slip into a slot. There's some that are just you screw in, and then there's others that have a little washer, little bushing that you put in, and then so because it's a small hole, you can basically carefully drill it out with a hand drill to the right size that you need.
See, I could never do this, Tony, because I would get overwhelmed pretty quickly trying to decide what it is I should produce next. Do you have like a list of things that you want to design and produce, or like do you have a vision for like this is a pretty solid little business already? So are you starting to get kind of a vision of where you want to go, or?
Yeah, I'd say so. A lot of the stuff, like I have a lot of requests for stuff.
Okay.
And they're all really good ideas. Sometimes I just can't find any ideas, and then coincidentally I get a message like, "Hey, can you design a Whitcomb?" I'm like, that's actually a really good idea. I'll make that, or I'll put it on the list and make it pretty soon. I had a request for, of course, like I said, the 25 tonner, and I definitely want to make that, so that's on the list. And I also want to make a Whitcomb 65 tonner when I get the chance, but of course that's also going to require its own chassis.
I'm kind of a fan of the box cabs myself. I've always been kind of a closet fan of the box cabs.
Yeah, as I say, the fact that Roundhouse is the only one that ever did that in HO, you'd think that would have been done a couple of times by now. When I saw he was doing this, it's like, man, that alone you're going to sell, because I think I finally did pick up a sample of one in pieces for my collection, and I paid like $50 for it, and it was basically junk. I mean, they go for a fortune. I don't know why that's not something that's been done again.
So how did you decide on the price? Because if you don't mind me saying, it seems a little low priced. I think you think you could charge more and still get away with it. Now, like everybody's going to be getting mad at me saying don't do that. Except we got a young guy here that's trying to get started. So how did you decide on the price?
Well, the idea is that they were kind of middle quality, I guess, like middle detail shells, regardless of the prototype. Like the grab irons on the Pennsylvania Power and Light fireless, for example, those can just straight up be ripped off and replaced with brass ones. They're all just, they kind of encourage kit bashing when you feel like it. So like the detail on there is good and it'll work. But like if someone really wanted, like, I want to replace the handrails, then they can do that fairly easily. I have the Whitcomb one, and that's a bit high. That's like $5 more because that actually includes weights and a length of brass wire for the handrails. And I have been thinking about working with Northwest Shortline to make some Stanton drives that actually just already have 36-inch diameter steam locomotive drivers, so I can make some 040s. Because for some reason, there is no 040 chassis in the U.S. market right now.
Huh. You should know that, Tony. This guy knows a lot of stuff.
I think that is true. That is true. Yeah.
You know a lot of stuff, Aaron. I'm impressed, and I don't mean it in a derogatory fashion. I'm impressed with your ability to organize all your thoughts and get them going in the same direction. And when you say you're working with Northwest Shortline, didn't it just get sold or something?
Well, from what I've seen, they have been, but they've been getting reorganized. I haven't had any significant communication with them.
Right.
But I'm kind of thinking as I kind of build up Apogee Locomotive Works, I'll be able to make more, instead of just some child saying, "Hey, can you do this and this and this?"
Right.
Okay.
I can help you there. I do know the lady that bought Northwest Shortline, so I did an interview with her a year or so ago, and they took it over. So there you go. We'll make that connection for you.
Yeah, Tony makes connections. We got young Drew an interview with Jason Schron. So I mean, we make the connections, don't we, Tony?
We do. Yeah.
So who bought Northwest Shortline?
I'm trying to think of her. She was an employee. She was a longtime employee, and I can't remember if it's her husband that's in it with her. And they basically, when he retired, the guy that started her own Northwest Shortline, it was going to go out of business, and they took it over and got it set back up. And I think I've seen, it's taken a while with the pandemic stuff to kind of slowed things down, but I have seen they've got stuff going again. But yeah, it's back and running.
Well, we should interview her. That'd be fun to talk
should, yeah.
And then we could ask her questions. How did you come up with, on behalf of Aaron, how did you come up with the name Apogee?
Well, I wanted something that was real unique as my models I was going to be making. And I was looking for, okay, so what's a word that sounds cool? And what's a word that makes sense? And I found apogee because it means it's the highest point in an orbit. So like the farthest point out of an orbit. So I could say like these are the most far out models and prototypes that you could put into model railroading.
Wow. Oh, yeah. This guy's too smart for us.
And see, I didn't know that. I saw that on his website, bringing far out prototypes into model railroading, but I didn't know what apogee stood for. So, but now that he's told me that, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's very cool.
You must be having a ball doing this, are you, Aaron?
Maybe.
Well, or maybe you said?
I'm having a great time doing this, yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming you would be. You're probably pretty darn proud of yourself at this point because it's going as well as it is, eh?
Yeah.
So what kind of plans do you have for the future?
Well, certainly more printers. I want to go to some train shows when they open up. Also, these printers are not without defects, and I have a box of failed prints. Not like failed prints, but like slightly warped prints. I keep the slightly warped prints for people who want to kit bash something that looked like it's been rear-ended. I have a few fireless shells that have the little grab irons and the ladders kind of bent up, so it'd be a great weathering opportunity.
Have you thought of starting some sort of line of like individual parts of particular things? Like, you seem like the perfect guy that could start some sort of a line of detail parts or something.
Yes, I did have a few ideas. One of them was a line of steam locomotive detail parts, and like not just like little compressors and stuff, but I mean like full on like new cabs and stuff, because there's tons of people I've seen who want to make a freelance unit for their freelance railroad. So they'll say like, oh, well, we'll put on these different components on this diesel locomotive, and it's a completely different unit. Why isn't there a thing like that for steam locomotives? Well, because not very many steam locomotives are built that you can do that. It's not like a car body or anything that you can just modify. So what I wanted to do was make some steam locomotive cabs that would all be very different from each other, and for different sizes, of course. So like you could have one that would fit on most articulateds, and then you just cut out the shape of the boiler so it'd slot in there perfectly. So you could say, like, oh, this is this articulated that my freelance railroad had built by Baldwin, and you can tell it's different and not a EM1 with a redecaled number because it has a completely different cab and a completely different smoke box, and the pilot's different, and tons of other stuff.
So, go ahead, Tony.
No, I was kind of smirking. Wow, that's a cool idea. Yeah.
It is a cool idea. So in the last episode, in the episode previous to this one, I don't know what number it is, but I know it was the episode previous to this one. We talked to a couple of young guys, John Caffarelli and Cam Neely, and they're 20, and they're around 23 years old, 22, 23 years old. And they're building some really nice layouts and stuff. And I was asking them, because this is fascinates me, because this is something that's, I'm assuming, Aaron, you've listened to the podcast. You've listened to every episode of the podcast and some of them twice.
Quite a few.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah, quite a few, actually.
Oh, did you listen to him before you saw Tony before Tony contacted you, or after?
After.
That's okay. That's all right. What do you think of it so far?
Quite nice.
Okay, cool.
I like listening to them. They're great to listen to.
All right, cool. So I'm really fascinated. I think this hobby's gonna explode and we'll all be covered in goo, because I think for guys your age, the young guys, it's like before, when I was getting into the hobby, or when I was your age, it was very hard to connect with other people in the hobby. And do you find it pretty easy to find other like-minded people and enjoy the hobby with others and stuff?
Yep.
I
know quite a bit of people my age, actually.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you guys find each other? Do you know?
Well, there's a lot of other social media and communication stuff. There's this one software called Discord, and it was originally just supposed to be for people who want to play games, but there's tons of people my age who, do model railroading more than people actually think. And we end up finding little servers of people our age who do model railroading. And one thing that I find interesting is, and I really do agree with them, and they're right, because I think the exact same way, a lot of them don't model modern railroading because there's not as much variety. I mean, we can't look out our window or have any nostalgic connections with any specific locomotives very often. We just like cool trains. So you see people doing like F units and 50s niche things like that. So, yeah.
And isn't that, Lionel, that sounds like, wasn't it young Drew Warrington that was telling us what he got interested in steam from excursion and other because we thought, well, why is he interested in that? So I mean, you would think everybody, there's that line of logic in the hobby, whether it's rail fan or model railroading, that you get interested in what you first saw. So if when you were a kid it was steam engines, that stays with you forever. If it was F units, that's your thing. But it amazes me. And I mean, to an extent, I'm that way. I like 60s, 70s, 80s stuff, probably, 60s, 70s the most. And I was born in 66. So again, the first stuff I saw was like 70s railroading. So that idea that what you first kind of were exposed to in the hobby or prototype railroading is what kind of becomes your thing is true. But then I see people like Aaron here or like Drew, and I'm just mind boggled that he's talking about, Shea locomotives on timber railroading, which I would think, well, you'd have to explain that to somebody 18 years old. They have no idea what you're talking about. Yet this is one of the things he's into. I mean, and again, it's what you say. It's the fascination of it, Aaron, that it's something that you didn't get to see.
Yeah.
Tony,
yeah.
Tony, I am sorry, Aaron, but I got to cover that. Aaron, you got to help me with this. Tony, I am absolutely dumbfounded, crushed, baffled, snookered. I don't pick any words you want that you don't know more about the Bachmann Shea.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna go dig through all of my boxes and see why I don't have one. I think it's a Spectrum release. I'm sure it was. I don't know, because I got a whole stack of Spectrum stuff. I don't know how I don't. And again, I can't believe I don't have that AHM. But the Heisler, they did two of those, like around 1980. Yeah.
Well, it's not so much that you don't have one.
I don't even know much about them.
Yeah,
no.
And it's like usually it's like, hey, Tony, blah blah blah, and you go, yeah, and you just ream off a pot, and you don't. I guess what threw me is until Aaron mentioned it, I completely forgot about it for probably the last 15 or 20 years. And then he mentions it and he says, he's got them running pretty good and all this stuff. And the climaxes run really good. And I'm thinking, oh, great. Tony's going to have a whole pile of information on it. And you don't even know it was barely even the hobby.
I know. Obviously, this is a research project for an HO Collector article.
Whoa. There you go. Holy mackerel. Okay, Aaron, have you ever thought of, do you have any plans of selling like completed locomotives where you buy, you buy the Bachmann 50-tonner, 55-tonner frame and you start selling them as completed locomotives?
Well, I have thought about it. And I very well might. Just because that's one of the things I really enjoy. I mean, some people like doing scenery, some people like running trains. And I'll be honest, one of the things I like is building the trains. So I wouldn't be opposed to putting together, painting, and wiring some fireless locomotives and whatnot. Reason I haven't, though, is just because, I was starting out. But I probably could do that soon.
Yeah, that atomic locomotive. I want one of those bad. And I've seen your picture where you built the frame for it with the 3 trucks. And yeah, I kept thinking that even if you told me what I need to get, it's like I can buy the shelf from him and between Shane and I, we can get it painted. But it's like, yeah, I'm going to have to try to get this guy to make me a working frame for it.
Yeah. And whatever you think you should charge, Aaron, add 20%. Remember, that's what the guy from, we're recording this around Christmas time. And right at the end of Christmas Vacation, the guy that plays Chevy Chase's boss, which is Bill Murray's brother in real life, he says, all right, Griswold, whatever your bonus was last year, add that amount and add 20%. That's what I think you should do, Aaron. You got to put your prices up a bit, buddy. You make a couple bit more bucks, and then you can buy some more printers and everything because you're producing a really decent product, and it's an individual product that not many people can find. I mean, you've really hit a core. And man, Tony, like the fact that he's just advertising on Facebook and stuff, and he's been able to create this this little business for himself is really, really cool.
As far as I know, like he's in either January or February's Model Railroad News. That's the first time in print, and then the web page I did for it, I think, is the first time I've seen any like hobby industry thing. So again, yeah, he's off and running, and really no one has found out about this yet.
Yeah,
this is still
that's right.
Wow,
yeah, he's off and running, and hardly anybody knows. And I mean, when people hear the podcast and stuff like that. So, Aaron, aside from your time spent doing this, if you were to build a layout, what would the layout? What railroad would you model, or would it be a freelance? Or
well, I've definitely had interest in freelance. I belong to a local club in Iowa, in Johnston, and I've been doing a little section of interurban equipment, and that's going to be like Fort Dodge, Des Moines, and Southern.
Okay.
But I've also got fireless locomotives, and gosh dang it, I need to use them. So I have a small line to a power plant there, and that fireless is going to run coal cars from the interchange to the interurban off to the power plant. But I also wanted to do a module that would be super fun to just have. And I'm sure a lot of people probably would shrug at this idea, but it was going to be a atomic transportation energy, like research and development center, where I'd have excuses to run the nuclear locomotives and the fireless locomotives.
Very cool.
Yeah, so freelance, so you can do what makes you feel good.
Yeah.
How's Des Moines for a model railroad town? I know Shane Mason, my assistant editor at Model Railroad News and the Young Gun, as he's known in the AML world. I know we stopped through. I was on our way to the AML barbecue in 2018 or 19. We went through Des Moines and stopped at a hobby shop that I think was like on the northeast side of town. I forget what it was called. And I know I spent some money. It was a fun hobby shop, but I know there's at least one good hobby shop there in town. So, and Iowa, when you said it wasn't much of a railroad town that you're in, but I think isn't Iowa or Illinois had like the most rails of any state in the union at one point as far
as,
yeah.
And the population of Des Moines is 700,000. The metro population is 700,000. So it's knocking on the door of 1 million people. So there's a ton of people there. So is there just one club? What's the name of the club that you belong to?
I belong to the Raccoon Valley Model Railroad Club, and that's actually quite close to me. It's just a drive down the road, which is great when you're 18 and it's pitch black outside, and you drive a 33-year-old brick with two-wheel drive. It's great.
What are you driving?
I drive a 1987 Chevy S10.
Oh, that's a sweet
That's
ride.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I had
It's
a buddy,
really clean. I've been taking good care of it.
Yeah.
That's a sweet ride. What color is it?
It's red, bright red.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
man.
nice.
Come on.
That's nice. Yeah.
What's the name of the club again?
Raccoon Valley Model Railroad Club.
RAC. How do you spell it? What is your name, Aaron?
RACCOON.
Oh, so Raccoon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think you said that with an accent because I was hearing Raccoon. So there you go.
They even have a Facebook page.
Do they? I'm working on that. I'm more model. Okay, hang on. So how long have you belonged to that club?
Maybe about 4 or 5 years. They've been some great mentors for me.
Have they? They were happy to have you in the club and all that.
Yeah, the first club I went to was not, but these guys are pretty informal and really nice. So,
do you know a guy named Jason Rice?
Yes, I do.
Is he in the club?
He was. I'm not sure if he's there anymore. I do know that he was working with a local fencing club too, and a few others. So he might have just had to take a break, but I'm not sure. He might still be.
Okay. So
there's a lot of people who were there but aren't there right now because of obvious reasons.
Of obvious reasons of the COVID. And did you? So you've met him and all that, and talked to him because he was one of the first people we ever interviewed on the podcast, almost 6 years ago, probably. So
wait a minute. Wait, did you ask him about his fencing club when you interviewed him?
No, we did not ask him about his fencing club.
Now I'm guessing a fencing club is like, you get together and like, see, I did this chain link fence. You said, oh, I did this. And then, you sit back and grill a few steaks. Man, that's a nice fence. Nothing like a good redwood. That's a good privacy fence. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go to a lot of meetings unless the barbecue was good.
Yeah.
But I guess I could see myself trying that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're reminding me of goofy stuff. My father-in-law was a volunteer fireman in his town for 40 plus years. And every Tuesday night was fire practice. And when I first met, got involved with the family, I would say, and he'd say he's going to fire practice. And I always had this vision of some poor little old lady, and she could see the fire trucks coming down the street. And it was her house they were going to set on fire so that they could practice.
That'd be like something out of Monty Python with what's his name showing up at the clipboard. Okay, we're here to set your house on fire. Oh, I knew it would happen one day. He's always signing up for something.
So you probably haven't been able to get to the club very much at this point, eh?
Well, I've gone there a few times. Thanks to my my online college courses, I've been able to get down there where nobody else's schedule works, so I get a whole place to myself.
Okay.
Bring down a pizza.
They're moving? Did they move?
They moved from one location to the location they are right now.
Oh, okay. A big new area, eh?
Yeah, they've been there for a while, and they were there when I joined, but they recently not recently, but last year they tore down the old layout because, there was too many tunnels. And it's Iowa. Why are there? So they decided to rebuild the layout, and it's a lot nicer now. There's reason for every piece of track there. They have a staging yard at the bottom level that can hold over 400 cars. It's great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that thing covered in scenery and everything.
So okay, let's get back to we've got to investigate here how this whole Apogee railroad company constructed. What's that? Let me hang on here. Let me get back to what's the exact name here. Apogee Locomotive Works. So
Loco Works.
Loco Works, yeah. So what was the first thing that made you start to, like, was it 3D printing that you came first, or was it that you wanted a particular locomotive that came first, or was it, when did you discover that you were interested in these little odd locomotives? Like, what was it that came first?
Well, I was always interested in model railroading, but at the time, I was in live steam, not necessarily like the 7.5-inch gauge, which is like stationary little steam engines and stuff.
Right.
And at one point, I made a little RC, took a little Wilesco steam tractor that was a small little toy, tin toy that would run on steam, and I put RC servos on it and decorated it like an RC car, and that was really fun. I actually won a local RC competition with it, not a race, but just like a
like a show.
kind
Yeah,
of thing.
car show.
And that was fun. And I used 3D printing for some of the servo mounts and whatnot. And I was kind of learning 3D printing with the old FDM printer, which is like, the ones where they have the rolls of the filament and it squirts it through the hot end and goes layer by layer.
Yeah.
But so I worked with that for a while. And I thought, you know what? I wonder if I can make train stuff with this thing. And so I started designing some stuff, and it turned out pretty okay. But then I started thinking, okay, I want more detail. And at this time, I was working at a local greenhouse. And so I blew all my money on a 3D printer, a resin one, and started working on that. And after I could never get a good print, I mean, they all were coming out right, but they didn't look good, nor did they have the qualities. They didn't even look like resin. Like they were like, I don't even know what the material was. It felt like it was just really improperly cured resin, and it felt so weird to hold. But nevertheless, they would fit on Bachmann shells. On Bachmann chassis, and it was fun to make these little details and shells and whatnot. But then I finally made one that was semi decent, and that's when I got some positive feedback on it, and people kind of wanted them. And I kept kind of improving on it until I figured it was ready to sell.
And that you say that weird resin at the first, is that you're not using the weird resin anymore? Or?
Well, I figured out what I was doing wrong.
Oh, what were you doing wrong?
Well, I was curing everything in the sun instead of a curing box. Right now, I have this really nice curing box that rotates the print on a bed on like a little table, and it also blasts a constant beam of UV light. And what I was doing originally was setting them in the windowsill so they'd be cured by the sun.
I had no idea. Wow, that's cool.
Well, that's kind of where I was headed. I think we should ask him a series of questions about 3D printing, because I know it's becoming such a thing. And so this curing box, is it something you could buy?
Yeah, Anycubic sells. Anycubic is the company that all my printers and equipment are. For one, it's nice to have everything the same company, and B, they're actually just really good company. They released a new printer called the Mono X, and it's one that I have that isn't running right now, but it's a monochrome instead of the LCD that I said had to be replaced on the old printers.
Right.
All the layer, like when you resin print, it cures these layers, each at one at a time, and the cure times are so much less. The thing is that this one printer that they have basically rendered every single other printer I've seen on the market obsolete.
Really?
So, yeah.
And what was it called? What's it called again?
It's called the Mono X.
Okay,
that's the big one, and they also have a standard one called the Mono. As far as I can see, they're the only companies right now that are releasing printers with monochrome displays, which allow them to have these cure times cut down from 10 seconds to 2 seconds.
And
now, when you say you have to put it in a box and cure it, so when the shell is done, this is almost like you have to freeze it or fix it or something. Like what do you mean? It has to be put in like this sounds like you're aging. Some explain that. What is that? Why does it have to be put in a box and cured?
Well, so when they come out, they're still covered in like a thick goo of resin that's uncured. So what you do is first you put them in a tub of alcohol, and that cleans off any of the uncured resin. And then you pull it out of that after it's mixed in there for a while. and all the resin is done like off. So you wipe off all the uncured resin, and you let it dry for a bit, and then you cure it in this UV light, and that UV light gives it one last final blast of curing. Because before you do that, all the layers have been cured, but it's in still like in layers. Like kind of think of it as like um, if you had something that was basically a line of just metal plates or something pop riveted together, and then if you could go back and weld everything together into one rigid thing, it's kind of like that.
Okay.
Huh.
And so that makes everything so much more durable and just better.
And I see here this Mono X is like 700. It's on sale for Christmas. It's like regular $559, and it's on sale for $700. So that's a fair chunk of money. But in the 3D printing world, that seems like it's the higher end. But you say it's a really, really good printer.
Yeah.
And do you have any of those yet?
I have one. And that's the problem is though is they haven't released the like the consumable parts yet. They have all printers have these really thin FEP films that you put in the vat. There's like a vat of resin, and that sits over a big LCD. And so when there's a build plate, then it goes down, and it sits flush as close as possible to the FEP film, and then the light shines in the right shape for that first layer.
Right.
And it sits there and cures the resin in that shape, and then that build plate pulls up, and it's supposed to pull against that FEP film. And if after time that FEP film wears out and eventually gets a little hole in it or something, and you have to replace those. But because they wanted to get the Mono X out quickly,
right,
or some issue, I wouldn't be surprised if there was all of a sudden some issue, but they haven't quite released the extra FEP films yet.
Yeah, Tony, you and I have talked often about the need for having FEP films.
Well, we talk about films sometimes, but usually we're talking about like Burt Reynolds movies.
Yeah.
That it's not like this. So, Aaron, what's the raw input? I've seen printers before, and they look like they either have fishing lure or like weed whacker, that plastic stuff that you put in. It looks like a coil of that you feed into them. Is that what makes your shells? Is it?
Hey, I think I can help here. I think I have part of the answer to this one, Tony.
Do you? I don't know.
I think you might be impressed with this. Aaron, if I'm wrong, feel free to jump in. But before resin printers, there was, what was it? A filament? What is?
Yeah, it's a FDM printers, which is a filament.
Yeah, then you bought this stuff, like you're saying, this kind of look like a roll of stuff, and you'd feed it in. But now the newest thing in 3D printing is resin printers. It's all the rage.
Oh, well, what is its raw material? It's not a spool of stuff?
No, it's a pile of stuff. What is it? What is it in resin? It's like you get it in a. Chris Atkins was talking about this one night.
Do you have to mix it? Because I know guys that cast resin, you buy like 2 bottles of stuff to put it like that.
It's a bottle of this UV sensitive liquid. It's like a kind of a somewhat thick liquid. It's completely gray or whatever color you choose, but I always choose gray because it's a great base for painting. It's UV sensitive, so it cures with UV light. And there's different tensile strengths, and from what I've seen, there's lots of other people, lots of other companies coming out with ABS-like resin where it's less brittle, and it has more like bend to it. I've seen people making like a quote-unquote metal resin, which is basically just like a bunch of little bits of metal powder in the resin.
Wow.
And you're supposed to vulcanize it or something. I'm not sure. But there's lots of other options out there, but it's all this resin. And these printers, unlike the FDM printers, the filament ones, because on the filament printers, it makes the line out of the plastic, and then it goes up a layer, and then it makes another layer of that plastic, and then it goes up, and you have these obnoxious layer lines.
Right, everything looks like a fluted passenger car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these resin printers, you can get them down to the rivet in detail. All the lines are perfectly smooth and everything. Which of course allows you to get really fine. And I'd say one of the advantages to resin printing over resin casting is that you can do really small details that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. The whole mold would just break. You can get crystal clear, like cuts through windows, You can even get grab irons printed on grab irons and handrails that look quite nice.
Yeah, on your one Pennsylvania Fireless, I noticed it's got those handrails that come up off the boiler face and back down the side of the boiler. And then it looks like it's got grabs up on the top. Are those separate, or is that part of the Is it a one-piece shell?
Yep, it's a one-piece shell.
Wow, and it's able to print all that and leave the space in between. That's fine. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the quality on the box cab is pretty darn good, if you ask me. Like, it's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like I should buy one just for the heck of it, because it's really, box cabs are cool. I always want, if there had been a decent box cab to buy, a decent Locomotive box cab, I always would have bought one because I always thought they were cool.
That's a classic.
It is.
Like I say, it is the, I think, considered the first diesel. I bought one of the Fireless, the little Pennsylvania Fireless from Aaron.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I have a Porter around here. If not, I got to go buy a Bachman Porter
and slap her together.
Yeah. Well, Shane will.
I was going to say, you don't seem to me to be like that. You're too busy making the magazine anyway.
I don't have the time. I don't know. And then once I do it, I end up super gluing my finger to my eyelid, and then I have to use the other hand to try to dial Shane and get him up here to help me out of the mess. Yeah.
Look what I did while I was gluing my finger to my eyelid.
It's always bad if he misses, and every once in a while he'll forget, and he does all the photography work for Model Railroad News. And if he doesn't take the shell off and get me a drive picture, I will do it. I think, I need to drive one. So I take the couplers off, do everything, and of course I just put it all back in the box because I can't get it back together. Yeah. So it's like, well, here you go. And you should have taken the picture of the drive. This is the penalty. You're going to get this back. And I hope I didn't break too many things getting the shell off. So
I remember... I'm going to digress for a minute. Aaron, I'm going to digress for just a minute. But I remember when I made my pitch to Model Railroader to do my column, and there was like Marty McGurk and Jim Kelly and Andy Sparandio and somebody else in the room, and I had this slideshow I was going to do. So at the start, before I started showing the slides, I said, what I want the column to be is just kind of this guy. I said, I just blurted it out. I hadn't thought of it before, but I said I was trying to describe who I was. And I said, I'm kind of like one of those guys like, hey, look what I did while I was gluing my finger to my eyelid. And and the 4 or 5 of them in the room, they kind of, you could see the eyes, and I'm thinking, oh, that was the wrong thing to say. And then and then Marty starts laughing, and they all start laughing. And I thought, I got a chance here. Look what I did while I was. So, okay, Aaron, now what? Oh, so the printer thing. Okay, so now, you don't have any of those filament printers anymore. You're strictly a resin printer guy.
Well, I do use the filament printer. I have one still, and that thing has been fun. I had to replace the extruder recently. It has a little hot end, and there's this problem that you can get with filament printers where it starts, like, the filament doesn't flow through very well, and you get this weird, like, fabric texture. And I've been working with that. I finally got it defeated. I win. But I've been using that to make the chassis for the X12, not the X12, but the nuclear locomotive projects.
I like the Alco GER box car, the box cab, the smaller one.
Yeah,
I think I'm a fan. That's the one I'm a fan of. Man, if they had ever made a model of that, they would have sold. Well, we have a guy now that's making it, so yeah. I would be totally. You must. What are your? I'm assuming you live at home, in the family home with parents and all that.
Yep.
And what do they think of all this?
Well, my parents are actually quite proud of me, which is nice.
I can think of 2 other guys that are pretty proud of you at this point.
I've been able to have a lot of excuses because of it. Like, I don't want to go to the store right now. I'm working on this, or it's like, can I borrow $20 for Office Depot, or something like that,
So they're proud. They're proud of you, and they're happy to have you doing it, and they can see the success and all that. They're excited for you.
Yeah.
Does your dad let you drive his car?
Well, he does, but I don't like it because it's not my 87 S10, and the dash is huge.
That's how many miles is on the S10?
91,000.
Oh, so not that
Not
many.
bad. Yeah, not bad.
Oh, yeah, that baby's got a lot of life left. Any rust on it?
Well, it was my great grandfather's, and it was sitting in a barn for about 12 years. It was
Really?
actually quite a good project getting that thing running again. The only thing that was really wrong with it was the fuel tank had 12-year-old gasoline in it.
Oh.
So I had to replace the fuel tank and the fuel lines. The only outside cosmetic damage was from recently when there was a storm and the barn fell on it. But it only dinged the hood. But we got that fixed because my father knows some guys at the college's auto collision
Okay.
classes. So he was able to get that fixed and painted, and it looks great now. And I've been a bit OCD on it. I've been taking it way too many car washes, but it looks great. So
So now you say what your train set came from your grandfather or great grandfather? Do you have other people in your family that are into either rail fanning or model railroading?
well, I have an uncle that does model railroading. And he's down south. But other than that, not really.
We got to get him a visit to Scott Thornton's place because Scott Thornton just lives up the road in Ames, Iowa, and he has a beautiful layout. And then there's another guy that's not that far from you. I guess he lives in. I think he lives in Fort Dodge. He lives west. He lives west of Scott. His name is Jason Clockey, and he has a beautiful layout. And I know that Scott operates on his layout. We got to get you hooked up with Scott Thornton because Scott Thornton loves 3D printing. Fort Dodge isn't that far away from you, is it?
Yeah, not too far.
Yeah, so we've got to get you hooked up with Scott Thornton because he's just up the road in Ames, has a beautiful layout. Scott is just a tremendous modeler, and he's involved with the Proto Throttle guys, but he's really into the 3D printing now too. I'm gonna make that happen. I'm gonna make that connection happen. Would you be interested in meeting Scott?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now he's with the guys that. Have you ever heard of Iowa Scaled Engineering?
I have not actually.
Yeah. Well, if you look them up on the internet, these are the guys that own the Proto Throttle. They're the guys that build it, and they have all kinds of other really really cool stuff. And they're located in Colorado, which is a little confusing to me. I don't know why the Iowa Scaled Engineering is located in Colorado. It's
I think they had to because Colorado Springs Engineering is located in Iowa.
Yeah.
So they were forced then to move to Colorado Springs because then there'd be name problems.
Yeah, and I'm always concerned that if they say they move to Tennessee or something, then it'll become Colorado Scaled Engineering. So yeah, we got to get you hooked up with Scott. You would love that. He's loving the 3D printing. Beautiful layout. Jason Clockey, we got to get you hooked up with these guys. I know you'll like it.
And I remembered Holly's the name of the lady that owns Northwest Shortline now. And I've got emails on her. I will contact her, and we need to have her on the podcast, I think, just to find out what's going on with Northwest Shortline. Yeah,
that would be a great idea. We're going to get you connected, Aaron. Sounds like you're having a lot of fun anyways. Is there any questions we should ask you that we missed out on?
What's his website? We haven't. I don't think we've said. We mentioned Facebook. We've mentioned his name, but now these people that have gone to the piggy bank and took the stopper out of the bottom, and then for the last half hour have been shaking the piggy bank, getting all that change and counting it up to buy a shell. Where can they get one?
Well, I do have an eBay store, but I also have ApogeeLocoWorks.com. That I have links for that on the Facebook page, but you can also just find it on Google.
Yes, and it's Apogee, APOGEE, locoworks.com. So you can't go wrong. And it's a really well, and I'm assuming you must have done the website too, did you?
Yeah, I had Yeah,
because you did a great job on that. What did you use to build that? What program did you use to build that?
I used Wix this time. At first I was using GoDaddy, but then I realized I was having many issues with orders just not working. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that. I'll just go to Wix. And Wix has been perfect. Haven't had any problems. But since I had that issue with GoDaddy, I do have a test order thing on the new page just because I.
Yeah. On my the website for this podcast, for the podcast, the Model Railroading Podcast, the only one you need to know of, except for there's our sister show, Model Rail Radio. We built ours on Weebly. So I think Weebly and Wix are like kind of the two competitors, the two main guys in the show now. These drag and drop website builders are really, really cool.
I thought Weeblies were those little round people things. Weeblies wobble, but they don't fall down.
Yeah.
What was that? When I'm talking, they were little egg-shaped people. It was a kid's toy.
Yeah, I vaguely remember.
Weebles. I'm gonna have to look that. I will look that up and post a commercial if I can find it on the Fans of the Modeler's Life.
Yeah, you don't have enough time to do that. You got to start investigating the Bachman Shea.
Well, I do got that project to do. Yeah,
that it would be a great thing for, like you say, for HO Collector Quarterly, because
it would be. And the new book from White River is Timber Titans: Baldwin's Articulated Logging Locomotives. So we've got a big new hardcover color book on early 20th century Baldwin logging locomotives.
Oh, do you really? Eh?
Well, I don't.
I understand the company
I work for,
White River Production.
Because obviously, with this shameful knowledge I have on shays, no one's going to ask me to write anything on articulated timber.
And you had one of these shays, did you, Aaron?
Yeah, I did.
And did you get it running? Did it run decent, or was it a complete loss?
Well, it ran pretty good, and it still does. A lot of people complained about the gearing originally with the plastic gears.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if you run it about the speed a shay would, 15, 25, 30-ish miles an hour at most.
Yeah, at most. I don't
think
think.
Run pretty good. And I lubricate it occasionally because,
I like that. I think you mentioned you have that Mantua, 2662, like it has no tender. It's like a tank, saddle tank. That's that's actually on the cover, I think, of that Timber Titans book. And I've got one of those. I think I got a couple of Weyerhaeuser and something else. I always thought that was such a neat, because it's such a big steam locomotive.
Yeah.
But then it's got no tender. It's got like a little tank back in tender thing. So yeah, that's a neat prototype.
I like under his, I'm sorry, did I cut you off there?
No.
I'd like under on his website, it says events. And then you go to train shows, and all it says is 2020 canceled due to pandemic.
Yeah.
There you go. That's kind of the it's coming back though. I tell you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Everything will be fine. What when you get to go to train shows, do you have any in particular that you'd like to try to hit?
Well, at first I'm going to go to a bunch of local ones, but I'm definitely going to have a lot of stuff there. I have so much time to get ready. I'm definitely going to have the new shells out, all the shells I have. And I'm also going to have my half-off box of slight defect shells for people who just kind of, want to try it, but do some weathering or whatnot on some slightly warped or damaged shells. I'm gonna try to have my module ready then that will have some running fireless 060s and my nuclear locomotive. Speaking of which, I have a Lokesound V5, a Keep Alive, and a really nice Lokesound speaker, Sugar Cube speaker in my my personal fireless, and I have the momentum cranked because these things didn't really, didn't haul 24/7. They kind of coasted around and shoved coal cars around and whatnot. So it sounds amazing. Lokesound is amazing.
Okay. So so is ESU your decoder and of choice then?
Yeah.
And what was the problem they had with the V5 or something? Has that been rectified or?
I don't know of any problems with any of their any of the V5s. I had great luck with them.
Okay.
But one of the things I really love about them is the software, because if you want to do a lot of decoder programming, they have a Loke programmer, and the software of it is so nice. You have sliders to edit CDs and everything. It's so much easier to program everything, and you put in your own custom sounds and do everything like that. So I
And
was able to.
you do all that on your computer, don't you? You have a screen that you bring up.
Yep.
And so,
Yeah.
I've seen Shane do that, and it's amazing. Yeah, that it's all you do all that and then just write it to the decoder. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah, it is very, very cool. What DCC system do you use?
I use Digitrax.
Okay. It seems kind of confusing to me. No, not confusing, but I prefer NCE. I'm an NCE guy.
Yeah. I've been kind of looking at other options though, just because. Well, the only reason I have Digitrax is because my club has it, and I heard
Right.
so much other stuff about their systems. Like, maybe I should try it out.
Okay, yeah. This is going to be great. We're going to have to talk to Aaron again, Tony, in about a year to see what's happening.
A year, that may be too long, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The rate this guy's going, yeah.
So how do you pronounce your last name again? No, don't tell me. Let me try. Let's see. Where is it? I saw it somewhere. It's not under contact. I saw your name here somewhere. You need an about page. You need a little about page about you somewhere on the website. So tell a little bit about yourself, or maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe when people see that you're a young guy, the wrong people will get themselves all bent out of shape. I think you need to put your prices up a bit. That's what I think.
I'm glad I got my order in already then.
Yeah. I'm pressing for that because he's doing good work. And another $10, like $45 here. I don't think 55 is pushing it at all. Now everybody's going to be mad at me. They're all going to be telling me to shut up. You say, don't do that. Don't do that. For $49.95. Pretty cool. All right, you tell me again. Your last strategy.
Let me try it.
Okay.
Piotrowski?
No, that's not even close. Come on. Is it Aaron? Are we pronouncing that right?
I think we got that. We get half credit, don't we, Aaron? Because we're doing really good with Aaron. So I think we definitely get half credit.
Yeah, it's close. It's 50-50.
So how do you pronounce your last name?
Piotrowski.
Oh yeah, Piotrowski. It's actually not that hard once you say it and then you see it. It's Piotrowski.
Yeah, it's all right there. Yeah, Piotrowski. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
That's right. It is like you just read it the way it sounds. Piotrowski.
Making it too hard. Yeah.
Where'd you get your boxes from?
I got the first ones. Well, actually, I got these from FedEx. FedEx has a thing that you can make custom boxes, and I have a custom size, and I have all the art I need. So I just kind of put together the boxes, and I get them shipped over here. It usually says that if you have a custom size, it'll charge up, but because my boxes are smaller than the smallest default size, they're slightly less. So that works out.
So there, I've learned something else. So FedEx has a what do you call it? An app or whatever where you can have your own boxes printed with your name on them and everything.
Yeah, they have a website.
Wow, FedEx has a website. Who would get
How are they very expensive to have the boxes made?
Well, it depends because it's like you can get. It depends on how much you get. Like if you get like 25 boxes, then it might go up 20 cents or so, or even $1. And then if you get 50, it'll go down. And if you get like 100 or 1,000, then of course it's much less. But right now, just because, I've been kind of I need an equilibrium right now just because I'm starting out. So I usually get about 50.
50 at a time. Works. You chew through those pretty quick, and then you got to get another 50.
That's a neat idea, though, because a lot of us collectors end up with so many things we don't have boxes for, which is very frustrating. And then you want to put it in a box and get it labeled. Like I buy bulk boxes from AccuRail in the Chicago area, and they basically have the long box and the shorter box. And I'll just tell them, hey, I need a case of these and a case of those. And then I just write on the ends. But this is kind of a neat idea. You could make your own.
Yeah. You get them right from FedEx and then send me something.
Who delivers them for FedEx?
Yeah. Yeah, they come by UPS.
They come by UPS. DHL. Yeah.
DHL, yeah. All right, Aaron, I think that's it, buddy. I think we've come to the end of the show. It was a lot of fun, and we're going to be talking to you again. Tony, can you give out our email address?
If you'd like to drop us an email, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. You can just go to amodeler'slife.com and you'll see the clickable link to send an email. It's the mildly agitated male boy is right there, our own Bruce. And just click on that, and it'll send an email to A Modeler's Life. You can also do that by sending an email to modelerslife@gmail.com. That is modeler with one L, like Apogee Loco works, not two L's like Lionel.
Wow, nice one. And we have a website, amodelerslife.com. If you go there, you'll find out everything you need to know about the podcast. There's listings of all the recent shows and shows that are coming up, and all kinds of stuff. There's a crew page, and there's a picture of Tony there in shorts, and we got all kinds of stuff on the website. And if you go to Midwest, and if you want a T-shirt or anything, if you go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com. If you go to that website and you go across the navigation bar to where it says AML, you click on that, and you will be escorted into a huge inventory of T-shirts, mugs, hoodies, hats, whatever AML merch you need. They've got it. They have it.
Do they have mouse pads? We need mouse pads.
Mouse pads, yeah. Maybe we should get mouse pads.
I have my custom-made Super Train mouse pad, but it's so old now, it's in terrible shape that I was thinking I need a new mouse pad. Yeah. I'm gonna have to talk to what Steven could set that up for us, right, Mr. Atwell?
Absolutely.
I will talk to him about mouse pads because that's definitely. I didn't know you could get the AML Nation hat.
Yeah.
That cool hat. I thought that was a one-off that you had made. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to get one of those now.
Yeah, that would fit you perfectly.
I would look good in that.
Yeah, and it's got Fred the Sock on it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And if you want to know more about the magazines I do, Model Railroad News or HO Collector, you can, of course, go to shop.whiteriverproductions.com or look up either title Model Railroad News or HO Collector on Facebook. Yeah, and don't forget, there's the fans of the Modeler's Life and Modeler's Life pages on Facebook, too, so you can interact with all of the peanut gallery.
Exactly. Let's not skip over those magazines too quick. It's Model Railroad News. And is there an actual website, or is that part of the White River Productions?
The magazine itself has a website, modelrailroadnews.com. Okay. And you can go to that. And then at the bottom of any of the pages for it are links to all the White River titles. So like Railfan, Railroad Model Craftsman, Narrow Gauge Gazette, HO Collector, Passenger Train Journal. Like there's 9 titles now in the White River family, believe it or not. Yeah. So you can find out about all those.
And you guys have a very cool, the Model Railroad News has a very cool Facebook page, a very updated Facebook page. So, and that's where you put Apogee Trains was on there, did you?
That I found him there, and then I put together a web page that was on modelrailroadnews.com and posted it on Facebook, and then wrote it up. He's got a page in, as I say, I think it's January's Model Railroad News print edition, that there's a full page showing you all these different, or what he had at the time. I think the little Whitcomb center cab was still brand new or just coming out when I was putting that together. So I showed 2 or 3 of his different shells, and all of Aaron's contact information is there.
Wow, that's cool. So now, Aaron, at the end, at the appropriate moment, have you listened to any of the episodes? You've listened to a few of the different shows, and at the end, you're going to have to say "Happy Rails" to you at the appropriate moment. Do you think you can handle that?
Maybe. We'll see.
Well, make sure you speak up when you say it, because it's key. It really sells. Yeah. It really sells the whole episode. Well, Aaron, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
"Happy Rails" to you.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of A Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late-night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.